Hello, good afternoon. Welcome back to the live. If anyone's out there or you're catching it on the replay, I suspect a lot more people will probably be catching this one on the replay rather than live, but live across Facebook, LinkedIn and Twitch today. For December Daily number 5, I was supposed to go live a little earlier this afternoon at 1:30 Melbourne time, but a few things popped up that I had to deal with, and then I had to squeeze in a walk before I had a 2 o'clock client meeting. It's important to get out and away from the desk. So I went for a walk and have delayed this. Fortunately, today I didn't have a guest lined up, so it was just me. I could reschedule and jump on whenever I felt like it. Just checking that this is coming through. Looks like it is. David's already there. Quick off the mark. Thank you for jumping on. You actually said hi before I got a chance to get it up on my phone to make sure that the stream was coming through properly. So yeah, live across those 3 platforms. I had a message from a friend and ex-colleague of mine, Marcus, over the weekend, saying that he was enjoying the December dailies, which was fantastic, and he asked about podcasts that I listened to and suggested that might make a good episode. So here I am today. I thought I would just talk about podcasts and YouTube that I listen to or that I enjoy. So I've just got my phone here, and I'll open up the podcast app and just chat about the ones that I listen to. Habib, thank you for joining in as well. If anyone, you guys, David and Habib that I know are there, anyone else that's watching, maybe jump in the comments. What podcasts do you listen to? What do you enjoy? YouTube, YouTube's a bit of an insight into, some of the things that I like that are a little bit outside of work. So, podcast wise, and I suspect anyone that's watching this or listening to this, actually, the audio of this has actually been going up onto my podcast channel as well. So the December dailies 1 through to 4 so far are there for anyone that wants to catch up. Lawrence, thank you for jumping in as well. So podcast is actually there. If you just search James Wrigley on Apple, Spotify, all of those types of places, there is a podcast where a lot of the audio from my live streams, I just post those up on there as well. But jumping into my podcast app and just looking at what I've subscribed to. Now, some of this I listen to quite regularly, some of it I don't. Or maybe start with Gary V. The Gary V audio experience. I think a lot of people probably pretty familiar with that one. I've been on and off a lot of the Gary V stuff over a while. So a couple of years ago, I was consuming every single thing that he posted, whether it was the YouTube in particular, just because of the editing from his daily V videos was just amazing. The team that he has around him, let alone what he had to share. So I watched and consumed a whole lot of his stuff through YouTube. He obviously then strips the audio from that. And puts it out on a podcast himself too. So a lot of in the day-to-day life ones, when he's out presenting, doing the public speaking gigs, all the rest of that, I loved all of that. Lately with COVID, a lot of it's just been his interviews and things, which not so fussed with. Certainly the videos, I haven't been bothering watching the videos, but I have been listening to a lot of his podcasts again. I think it got to a point with Gary that a lot of what he says is, stop listening to me and actually go and do the work, go and do the stuff that I'm talking about. And I think I well and truly got to that point with him a little while ago, and hence me, been jumping on live here and doing all the other bits and pieces that I do. So Gary V, if you aren't listening to that or aren't watching that, I'd jump on that. I'd jump on that one too. The Elephant in the Room, it looks like they've just released a new podcast today. So Chris Bates and Veronica Morgan's Elephant in the Room property podcast. I listen to that one pretty regularly as well. I often listening to podcasts when I'm putting the kids to sleep. So, sitting with them or holding them when they were younger. So the Elephant in the Room is brilliant. Really up-to-date kind of pulse on what's going on in the property space, a whole range of different guests that they have on there. Coffee and a Case Note, James Dapachi and his coffee and a case note, but similar to what I was referring to, really just strips the audio from his videos and post those up. So I listen to that from time to time. I am a subscriber, James, if you're catching this one. Can't go past XY Advisor for anyone that's in the financial advice space. The XY Advisor. So they interview a whole range of financial advisors on a range of different topics, what they're doing in their businesses, and they might have short stints of particular topics, ethical investing or whatever it might be, and they get a few guests along to talk about that. I was fortunate enough to be interviewed by them a couple of months back. So there is an episode of mine where I spoke with Clayton really about doing these videos, jumping on live and all the rest of it. So that was a big honour to jump on their podcast. Habib Chat with Traders is something that I've been listening to for the last couple of months. So yes, I haven't listened to that one. Motley Fool, I look at their written stuff. They've got some good stuff in there. Lawrence, cricket podcast. I'm not surprised. looking at your Instagram, there's a fair bit of cricket content, particularly on the weekend. It looks like you're well and truly into it. And James drinking coffee. I suspect he'd probably say he's doing some work this time of the afternoon. I think he's coffee and case notes. He makes the effort to go and do those early in the morning. But we'll leave it to him to correct us otherwise. Hey, Lawrence. Then there's My Millennial Money with Glenn James. So he, ex-financial advisor that doesn't actually do financial advice anymore, well and truly onto the media and podcasts and whole My Millennial Money spin-off shows into careers and property and a whole bunch of different things. So I listen to a few of their episodes from time to time. It's not something that I listen to regularly, but it is good every now and then to listen to an interesting topic of theirs. Ryan Serhant, which I'll talk about in property, in YouTube, and then the other one that I was just listening to just last week, The Mentor, Mark Bouris, The Mentor, his podcast. I was listening to one of the Gary Megan, the celebrity chef. So his podcast as well. A lot of business owners jumping on there, which I get a lot of inspiration from. And then another property one here, the Long Property Show. So Daniel Gold runs a mortgage broking business in Melbourne called Long Property. He has a podcast, but looks like he hasn't posted a new episode since the 2nd of July. So Dan or Paddy, if either of you are catching this, get another podcast out there. So that's mine. A lot of them are come industry type related and so forth, but that's what I'm interested in. That's what I work in. So they're the podcasts that I tend to listen to, interviews with business owners, that kind of thing. YouTube. So YouTube's an interesting world. I've got a channel on there. I've struggling to get my subscribers up. So if anyone's watching that isn't subscribed to my YouTube channel, can you do that, please? I'm trying to get the customized URL, but can't do that unless you've got enough subscribers. So looking at my YouTube, if you open it up, it comes across with who do you tend to look at the most? And look who's up there. Mr. Coffee and a Case Note himself comes up there. So his latest case note is there. But across the top, there's them, the ones that I subscribe to, but the most frequent that I look at. So there's a couple of car-related ones are the first two. So there's Mighty Car Mods, which is a couple of Aussies. If anyone's familiar with them, they've got a few million subscribers and doing quite a decent channel. Mighty Car Mods, where they buy and modify and do up old cars. And I say old cars, they're cars that I would have had posters up on my wall when I was 15, 16, 17. So that, they've got a two-door WRX STI. They've had Evos on there. Some old BMWs and bits and pieces like that. So a lot of older cars that as a teenager I dreamed of owning. These guys are probably a similar age to what I am. They're going back buying these cars now. Some of them are frightfully expensive because they're in such high demand, but then they tune them up and make them look nice and race them around a track, those kind of things. So when I'm wanting to just tune out and not look at anything that's business related, financial advice related, I tend to watch Mighty Car Mods. The next one's Shmi 150. He's another car YouTuber, but it's more the brand new cars and the ultra exotics, the expensive Aston Martins and BMWs and Porsches and Ferraris and those kind of things. So they're a whole nother league to what Mighty Car Mods do, but it is the newer, certainly the newer cars. Then there's a couple of more business related. So Ryan Serhant, I'm a massive fan of $1 Million Listing New York, which is where he's from. So Ryan Serhant is a real estate agent in New York, building a whole real estate empire off the back of social media and YouTube and podcasts and Instagram. So I take a bit of content producing, tips from him. Content producing tips from him. So he's a good one to follow. But then he just has quite interesting videos. Looking at New York properties in particular. One of his spin-off channels listed. Then there's the Gary V YouTube. Couple more car-related YouTubers, a bit smaller than those two that I mentioned. And then Casey Neistat. So Casey Neistat, I might finish up on that one. Casey Neistat used to do a daily YouTube vlog, and it was actually leading into the Christmas holidays a few years ago that I discovered Casey, and I got into the habit of watching Casey's YouTube videos every day to see what he was going on, what was happening in his life, and he ended up becoming massive, many millions of subscribers, getting heavily involved with Samsung and I think Red Bull and a few other big businesses that were paying him to do videos and flying him all around the world and living this crazy adventurous life. But he's well and truly slowed down the YouTube now. So Casey, putting out some brilliantly edited videos, storytelling, 10-15 minute daily vlogs, as well as just doing some really interesting stuff. So that was that the last one. There's a few others that I subscribe to, but no one that really publishes regularly. Yeah, Lawrence, some expensive interests. I'm gonna have to share a photo. I had when I was 18, my first car was a red Hyundai Accent, 2-door red Hyundai Accent. That I did up with the wheels and the stereo and the exhaust system and all of that. I absolutely loved it. That was an expensive hobby. I spent far too much money hiding up my $15,000 Hyundai Accent, only to sell it a few years later and get none of that money back whatsoever. But it was a whole lot of fun. Since then, I still do love my cars. Albeit don't drive anything adventurous or haven't spent any money on anything nice for quite some time. That will need to wait a few more years. I've got a mortgage and things to deal with at the moment. So the boring responsibilities have crept in, but as an 18-year-old, I spent far too much money holding up my Hyundai Accent. Someone here watching on Twitch is Izang1021. Thank you for joining me. Don't know how many people tune in on Twitch. So that's me. That's the podcast. So the podcasts that I listen to are a little bit more kind of business in the industry that I'm in, type related. My YouTube tends to drift a little bit further into some of the more hobbies and things that I'm interested in. So yeah, that's me. That's the quick video for today's daily live. Lawrence, at Daihatsu in Perth with no aircon, that would have been interesting. My Hyundai didn't have aircon, but it was a second-hand car that I bought. Well, an ex-demo car that I bought from a Hyundai dealership, and got them to put air conditioning on before I bought it. When I went to sell it, I ended up selling it to like a car dealer or someone that came to my house, And I remember they opened the bonnet. And were looking at the bolts that run along the inside of the front wheel arches. And they said to it, looking at it, going, "Oh yeah, no, the paint's cracked there. This has been in an accident. Someone's been in here." I'm like, well, it wasn't me. I didn't crash the car. I certainly didn't crash the car in the front section there. Anyway, I did hit the back into something. So it was news to me. However many years later, 3-4 years later, when I went to sell it, that it had been in a front end incident. Who knows how bad? But sold that on. So yeah, we all survived our first cars. I drive a Mazda 2 at the moment, so it's not as if I've upgraded terribly much from my Hyundai Accent, but it gets us around, and I will at some point get back into the nice cars that I dream of. So that's me for today. That's today's daily live, December daily number 5. Hope you can join me tomorrow. I'll come up with a topic that's maybe a little bit more work related for tomorrow, and see you then. I hope you can join me. Bye.